Gears Tactics might look an awful lot like XCOM, the strategy game that has inspired a lot of nail-biting, squad-based combat over the last half-decade, but it plays very differently. This is the power fantasy version of a tactics game, and it's pure, pitch-perfect Gears of War, right down to the cranial pop of a long-shot sniper rifle bullet landing a critical headshot. I've played about 25 hours of Gears Tactics, running through a linear campaign told with some really pretty Unreal Engine cutscenes. The setup is simple. Your squad of Gears are up against piles of Locust bad guys, hunting down a mad scientist named Ukon, also a Locust, who creates the monsters that you're fighting against. It's easily the best looking tactics game I've played, and it's kind of hard to oversell how precisely this game has translated the feeling of Gears of War into this overhead turn-based perspective. Gears Tactics is a really aggressive strategy game because it knows that you have frag grenades that you can just throw at a pile of enemies to turn a bunch of scurrying wretches into chicken nuggets, or you have a chainsaw gun that can slice even a full health tough enemy in half for an instant kill. Your empowerment is really what sets Gears Tactics apart from XCOM, where every single turn is about the tension of how few moves you can make and the dramatic risk of missing even a single shot. In comparison, Gears is way more freeform, giving each of the 4 soldiers that you take into a mission 3 actions per turn. Those actions can be any combination of moving and shooting and special abilities that you want. And every time one of your soldiers performs an execution move on a near-death enemy, the rest of the squad gets an extra action point for the turn. Chaining executions like that is kind of the design equivalent of an army platoon shouting "hoo-ah," and it's one of the most fun mechanics in a strategy game that I've come across in a long time. Instead of that feeling of just one more turn that you get when playing games like Civ, I found myself reaching for just one more kill every single turn.
That's what I thought.
So, unlike an XCOM, you're not really trying to make the best of your meager options. You're trying to instead extend your turn as long as possible, because every kill offers up the opportunity to earn more actions, and then more kills, and then more actions until you've killed every single enemy on the screen. And I love how every turn that's pushing me to be creative with how I combine my squad's abilities. Now, Gears Tactics does lose the real edge of danger that XCOM has, where units dying through the campaign is practically guaranteed. Unless you're playing on the highest difficulty setting in Gears, you can actually revive soldiers multiple times on the battlefield, and there were only a couple times in my entire campaign where I really came close to permanently losing someone. I think Gears could have made revives stricter to get back some of that risk, but mostly I enjoyed the level of challenge. I couldn't be lazy. I really still had to play intelligently, but I wasn't constantly stressed out. What Gears loses in tension, then, it mostly makes up for in flexibility. All 5 classes are fun, and they have skills that combine in really clever ways. The support class can gift an action point to a squad mate, and I love pairing that with another ability that earns the support soldier an action back each time that squad mate gets a kill. It's kind of like placing a bet on a particular soldier and then trying to follow through with it, making sure you get those kills and get those extra actions. Where Gears Tactics diverges most from XCOM is the linear campaign. So there's no meta strategy to manage here. There's no world map, there's no resource management, there's no research system. This is not a sandbox experience, which mostly works for Gears Tactics thanks to just how good and deep the combat system is and how damn pretty it looks. It's really nice to have cutscenes telling you a story, even if the story here is pretty simple. But it does unfortunately mean that repeat playthroughs will have the same structure, and they won't feel nearly as fresh as they would in a more open-ended game. And I found that without some of that meta strategy to change up how I was spending my time, the campaign did start to drag by the end. There are boss battles, which is really cool to experience in this kind of tactics game, but they use mostly the same mechanics, and they never really change during the fights either. Side missions pad out the length of the campaign, which could be good, but they end up being repetitive and they kind of feel like roadblocks to progress because 1, you don't get to choose when you embark on them, and 2, they never end up really feeling very meaningful. So already I'm hoping for a Gears Tactics 2 because honestly the combat, skill system, and presentation are all so promising. I want more of those things in a bigger game. As I recruited new soldiers throughout the campaign, I actually kept finding fun skill combos that I hadn't even tried yet. There's a weapon customization system that ties nicely into those skills, buffing certain stats and adding special effects like knockback, but finding loot crates through the levels to unlock new parts was a cool challenge. Unfortunately, like the side missions, I just got tired of hunting down crates for mostly identical loot by the end. So the fundamentals of this game are a real joy to play around with, and I mostly love my time with it. Put the Gears Tactics combat into a sequel with some more open-ended strategy systems that balance out the variety and pacing, and I'd honestly rather play it over XCOM, which is a recommendation I never expected I'd make.